Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Bama Jamma, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into The Process. This is the second show of the week. I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. I'm here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. And on today's episode, I want to preview another big recruiting weekend for the Crimson Tide as they will host another loaded group of official visitors. I will break down each guy, talk a little bit about them and what they bring to the table, and also where their recruitment stands as the Crimson Tide are set to host them for this weekend. I'll also go over a couple of recruiting updates. We're going to start with those recruiting updates right now, starting with Perry Thompson, a 2024 wide receiver out of Foley High School in Foley, Alabama. Recently picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide after camping in Tuscaloosa. That offer came from the Crimson Tide safety coach and Alabama area recruiter Charles Kelly. He called Thompson up on Monday after he attended camp recently. He told Thompson that Nick Saban liked what he saw, and he told him that he had an offer from the Crimson Tide. Had an opportunity to catch up with Thompson after he picked up that offer. He said he was excited, ran and told his mom, his uncle, and the rest of his family, and they were all very excited as well. Said he likes Alabama a lot. Said that he feels that he can be developed there, especially at the wide receiver. Has a lot of respect for the way they use their wide receivers. In terms of what he brings to the game, currently standing at 6'4", weighing approximately 200 pounds. He's a physical wide receiver with a go and get it attitude. One of those guys who you can just throw the ball up there and watch him go and get it and catch the football in traffic really well. So he's a prospect to watch moving forward in the 2024 recruiting class as top prospects from the state of Alabama continue to emerge, and Alabama is continuing to recruit those guys. Perry Thompson is one of those guys. He picked up his first SEC offer when an offer from the Crimson Tide came in. Another guy who recently visited the Crimson Tide in the 2024 recruiting class is five-star quarterback Julian Santiago out of California. Had an opportunity to get to Tuscaloosa, and Santiago is one of the top quarterback prospects in the 2024 recruiting class at the moment. Most recruiting sites have him listed within the top 5 quarterbacks in his respective class. Has great accuracy. The Crimson Tide said they really like that about him and his ability to extend plays along with his high football IQ. But he got an opportunity to get down to Tuscaloosa earlier this week. Had an opportunity to catch up with them after that visit. Said it was a great visit, had fun meeting Coach O'Brien and also Nick Saban. Also said he feels that Alabama production speaks for itself with them winning 6 championships over the last 12 years. Also talked about their quarterback development in terms of guys like Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and also Jalen Hurts. He said it speaks for itself as well. He's a guy after that visit who told me that the Crimson Tide are high on his list at the moment. We will see how things shake out, but the Crimson Tide are continuing to make big impressions on guys in the 2023 recruiting class, of course, but also on guys in the 2024 recruiting cycle. For the rest of this show now, we're going to talk strictly about 2023 prospects, starting with the guy who recently pulled an offer from the Crimson Tide after impressing Nick Saban at camp, and I'm talking about Jaren Hamilton out of Gainesville, Florida. We look his name up on most recruiting sites. He does not have a rating or a ranking, which is quite surprising for a guy who holds more than 10 D1 offers. And when you take a look at his film, there's a lot to like. Impressive releases off the line of scrimmage. A guy who can make plays after the catch. Impressive route running ability as well. He impressed Nick Saban at camp, specifically during the one-on-one and 7v7 sections when he had opportunity to go up against competition. Nick Saban gave him that offer, and I got an opportunity to catch up with Hamilton as well. He said he felt a lot of emotions when Nick Saban told him about the offer. He was really thankful that he got an opportunity to show Nick Saban what he's able to do. Said he feels Alabama is wide receiver U. As far as his recruitment is concerned, I think he's one of those guys whose recruitment is going to get a lot bigger. I think in a couple of weeks or months, he will definitely have a star rating. I think it will be at least a 4-star on most recruiting sites. So he's going to be a rising wide receiver in the 2023 recruiting class. To know, earn that offer. So he's going to continue to work through everything, but he feels Alabama is definitely going to be one of his top schools moving forward. One of the Crimson Tide's top offensive lineman targets in the 2023 recruiting class is set to announce his commitment this upcoming week on Monday, and I'm talking about Wilkin Formby, the 4-star offensive lineman out of Northridge High School in Tuscaloosa, a Tuscaloosa native. He's a hometown target for the Crimson Tide. He will choose between Alabama, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. Taking a look at Formby and the Crimson Tide's relationship is a really interesting one. It seemed he was on the campus of the University of Alabama every day during spring because it's literally right around the corner from his house to get to Tuscaloosa and get to the campus of the University of Alabama. So he was in Tuscaloosa on the campus around the football team a lot during spring. Locked in an official visit to the University of Alabama. Visited last weekend. Now he's set to announce that commitment. I think his decision will most likely come down to Ole Miss in the Crimson Tide. I think the Tide really like Formby, currently standing at 6'8" and weighing approximately 300 pounds. Had an opportunity to see him at the Under Armour camp a couple of months ago, and he was very impressive, towering over most of the competition and most of his peers at that camp. He's a guy with excellent footwork, great mobility for a guy his size, carries his weight extremely well. I think he's a guy who has the potential to be a great tackle at the next level, and the Tide are going after several offensive tackles in this 2023 recruiting class. They would love to have him. They have recruited him really well. His relationship with the Crimson Tide's offensive line coach Wilkin Formby goes back to his time at Kentucky, so we'll see what happens on Monday. I do feel the Tide are in a good position with Formby. We'll keep you guys updated on his decision when it comes on Monday, as he will announce it from Northridge High School. A guy who the Crimson Tide have made a great impression on recently is 2023 kicker Peyton Woodring. I talked about him on the latest episode of the Process Tuesdays episode, and I said that I felt the Crimson Tide are going to prioritize the kicker position because they're going to need a kicker after Will Riker departs from the program at the end of next year. It looks as if Peyton Woodring is their #1 kicker target. They told him that on a Zoom call after he attended the Crimson Tide's specialist camp over the weekend. At a Zoom call with Nick Saban, and Saban told him that you are going to be our #1 kicker target. His response is that the Crimson Tide are the top school in his recruitment at the moment. If a commitment comes from Peyton Woodring in the next couple of days or next couple of weeks, I think it is a 98% chance that he would choose the Alabama Crimson Tide. Had a long of 52 during his junior season in Lafayette, Louisiana. He's going to be a guy that's going to continue to grow, continue to get consistent, but the Crimson Tide like what they see out of the 2023 kicker so far. Now we're going to transition into those official visitors. Crimson Tide had a loaded group last weekend, several 5-star prospects. The same will happen this weekend in Tuscaloosa with several 5-star recruits heading to town. If you love defensive backs like Nick Saban loves defensive backs, you are going to love this weekend as the Tide have an opportunity to host some of the top defensive backs in the 2023 recruiting class, starting with Kamani McLean out of Florida. And take a look at him, and if you had to build a prototype defensive back, a prototype cornerback that you want to see in today's game, I think Kamani McLean is the type of guy that you are going to come up with. A guy who can turn and run with most wide receivers, go stride to stride, great length, a lengthy, long, rangy defensive back. A guy can go up and attack the football. There's a lot to like about McLean. You can definitely see why many feel he is the #1 cornerback in the 2023 recruiting class. It looks as if Florida and Alabama have sort of separated themselves in his recruitment, but Georgia is not going down without a fight. They are making a strong push as well. He'll officially visit Alabama this weekend, but he will officially visit Georgia the following weekend as the Bulldogs try to make this a tight 3-team race. I feel the Tide are right in the thick of things. They have an opportunity to battle it out with the Gators and with the Bulldogs to pull out McLean. So we'll see how his official visit goes. Another 5-star who will be on the campus of the University of Alabama this weekend is Shelton Sampson, a 5-star wide receiver out of Louisiana, a 6'4" prospect who can do it all at the wide receiver position. There's a lot to like about him, his ability to go up and attack the football, great route runner. He's an all-around wide receiver. It's not hard to tell when you watch this film why he is a 5-star prospect. Taking a look at his recruitment, currently has a top 6, has LSU in it, he has Alabama, he has Michigan, Oregon, Texas A&M, and Florida State. He's actually coming off of an official visit to Florida State to officially visit Alabama this weekend. I think his recruitment is not as far along as other guys are in terms of setting up a lot of official visits in June in hopes of making a decision before their senior seasons begin. I don't think he will do that. I think he will try, most likely, just taking a look at his official visit plans, most likely take some more official visits during the fall, has some more visits to get to as well, unofficial. So I think his recruitment is a bit more in the earlier stages than some guys who have locked in multiple official visits during the summer. But the Tide are going after multiple wide receivers. I think they're going to have a decent number of wide receivers in this 2023 recruiting class. They will have an opportunity to definitely impress Thompson on this weekend, as he will be in Tuscaloosa, along with Samson Okunlola out of Massachusetts, a massive 5-star offensive lineman. I know the Crimson Tide hosted several linemen on last weekend. They will host another 5-star in Samson Okunlola, who the Crimson Tide offered very recently. Their relationship is a very young one, considering their relationship with other guys, but they have made a big impression on him as well, because as soon as that offer came in, he included the Tide in his top 9, and that's locked in that official visit. I think Nick Saban being involved in this recruitment very early in terms of the Crimson Tide pushing for him has played a large role in the Crimson Tide making this amount of progress in his recruitment in a short period of time, along with his relationship with the Crimson Tide's offensive line coach Eric Wolford, which goes back to his time at Kentucky. I think I said that a lot of times over the last couple of episodes of the process. You see that Eric Wolford was a great recruiter at Kentucky, and a lot of his relationships has transferred over to the University of Alabama, and I think that has helped the Crimson Tide. I think it will pay dividends for them as this 2023 recruiting class moves forward. Justice Haynes, a 5-star running back out of Georgia, will also be in Tuscaloosa, a do-it-all back, a guy who runs with great balance and under control runner. When he gets into the open field, you're not going to catch this guy. Is going to take his official visit to Tuscaloosa on this weekend. Has had an opportunity to take a couple of official visits during the month of June already. He has taken an official visit to Georgia, which was on the first weekend in June. He officially visited Florida, will visit Alabama this weekend, then head to Ohio State afterwards. He will be joined by Caleb Downs, another top prospect out of the state of Georgia, quite possibly the #1 safety in the state. He's a guy similar to Justice Haynes. Both of those guys have set several official visits during this month. He actually officially visited Georgia during the first weekend in June as well. Visited Notre Dame. He's heading to Alabama this weekend, so he'll be back with Justice Haynes, as both of those guys will take their official visit to Tuscaloosa. Both of them will be heading to Ohio State as well. Caleb Downs actually took an unofficial visit to Alabama during the spring, had an opportunity to spend a couple of days in Tuscaloosa around multiple members of Alabama's current roster, like Brian Branch, who is a Georgia product as well. He's a do-it-all safety, a guy, like I said, many consider him to be the #1 safety in this class, a physical guy who can get it done in all phases of the game. Even when you take a look at kick return, I think he is a guy who can even play some offense at the high school football level, but he will be in Tuscaloosa as well among the loaded group of official visitors. Outside of those 5-star prospects, still have some very interesting guys. Also looking at Jelani Thurman, a 4-star tight end, another Georgia prospect who's heading to Tuscaloosa. More of a receiving tight end. I think the Crimson Tide are going to try to pull in at least one of these guys in each recruiting class, because the game has become more modern. Everyone knows the old school game. You use a tight end to block, maybe on a short route, most likely in the end zone, throwing the football, let them use that big body, but we're seeing more wide receivers be receiving guys, and I think Jelani Thurman is definitely one of those guys. Taking a look at his film, you see him lined up at the wide receiver position a lot. We will see what the Crimson Tide can do in this recruitment on this weekend. Makari Vickers is another defensive back who will be in Tuscaloosa, the 4-star defensive back out of St. John Paul's Second Catholic High School in Tallahassee, Florida. He's one of the more complete defensive backs in this class, a very versatile guy. He can be a cornerback at the next level, or he could be a safety. Great movement in coverage, naturally athletic, great speed, verified speed. Has great track times. He camped at Alabama on last year, and he had an opportunity to run a 4.4 in the 40. So he's a very impressive prospect. To the Crimson Tide have surprisingly hosted right on par with Florida State, even though he lives in Tallahassee. I think the Crimson Tide are right on par with Florida State in terms of the amount of times they have hosted him. But he will be back in Tuscaloosa on this weekend after unofficially visiting Alabama during the month of April for a day. I think the Tide are in a really good position with Vickers at the moment. Another Florida DB who will be in Tuscaloosa is Damari Brown, an American Heritage product. The Crimson Tide pulled in Earl Little Jr. from American Heritage in the past. Also Patrick Surtain, but they are not done recruiting those defensive backs from American Heritage as they are also going after Damari Brown, a guy who knows how to mirror the wide receivers really well. His ability to close on the football is really impressive. Currently, he does have a top school list at the moment. Of course, the Crimson Tide are included in his top school list. He has a top 6, which has the Florida State Seminoles, you have the Oklahoma Sooners, LSU Tigers, Miami Hurricanes, and also the Clemson Tigers. It's time an opportunity to make a great impression on him this weekend. We'll see how that official visit goes. Ronan Hannafin will basically wrap up the official visitors who will be in Tuscaloosa on this weekend. Hannafin is a product of Massachusetts. He's a guy who can do a little bit of everything in every phase of the game as well. It'll be interesting to see what position he plays. Plays defensive back, wide receiver, and is a returner at the high school football level. Physical on the defensive side of football. He can make plays with the football in his hands in the return game, also after the catch as a wide receiver. So it's a question mark on where Alabama will possibly use him. He has a lot of schools going after him along with the Crimson Tide. He has locked in several official visits for this month. Ashley will officially visit Alabama on this weekend. Is scheduled to officially visit Boston College the following weekend. Has taken official visits to Georgia and Notre Dame. So we'll see how his recruitment plays out as well. The last guy I want to talk about on today's show is Malik Benson. I actually did a video on him a couple of days ago. I think it was last week. I basically broke down his game. An impressive route runner out of the JUCO ranks as he currently attends Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. He will officially visit Alabama this week. He's actually on campus right now taking that official visit. Started on yesterday. He will be in Tuscaloosa through Friday. So we'll see how things shake out with him. The Tide definitely like what he can bring to the table. Taking a look at his film, he's one of those guys who could easily make an impact in year one, especially with how developed he is as a route runner. Lots of speed, explosive after the catch. So we'll see how that plays out as well. So there's a lot to watch in terms of the Crimson Tide hosting guys this weekend. We'll definitely keep you guys updated over at touchdownalabama.com. But it's always, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hit that like button before you leave. Hit the subscribe button as well. Hit the notification bell if you are a subscriber. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With this subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles. Get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue as well. Then head to the Google Play Store if you have that Android device, or to the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, to download the Touchdown Alabama app. With that app, breaking news notifications will be delivered to your phone by the staff here at Touchdown Alabama. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.